Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're diving deep into the Iroquois Confederacy and their great law of peace.
Ooh.
We're going way beyond, like just the structure of their government. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, Founding Fathers meets anthropology, but way more engaging than that sounds.
Right.
So our source for this deep dive is excerpts from a document titled The Constitution of the Iroquois Nations, the Great Law of Peace.
It's fascinating. You know how this document, centuries old, reveals a society that was surprisingly complex.
Yeah.
And in some ways even echoes modern thinking.
Right off the bat,
Yeah.
we get this really powerful image. A tree of great peace planted with roots stretching north, east, south, and west.
Mhm.
It's not just poetic, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what's the deeper meaning there?
It symbolizes unity and strength and the peace that the Iroquois sought to establish.
Yeah.
A really deliberate statement about creating a stable and lasting union.
And then there's the eagle, perched at the top, ever watchful for danger.
Always keeping an eye out.
I mean, that's a pretty impressive early warning system.
For sure.
But, okay, let's move from, symbolism to the practical stuff.
That's
Like,
right.
how did decisions actually get made?
Yeah.
We've got Mohawk, Seneca, Oneida, Cayuga, and Onondaga lords, each with specific roles.
It's a very intricate system, almost like a carefully designed flow chart.
Okay,
So, let's say an important issue comes up.
okay.
First, the Mohawk and Seneca lords, who are positioned on one side of the council fire, would discuss it amongst themselves
Okay.
and try to reach a consensus.
Right, so they're like the first stage
Yeah.
of deliberation.
Exactly.
And what?
Then the issue would move to the Oneida and Cayuga lords, who are on the other side of the fire.
Okay.
Now, here's where the checks and balances come in. The Mohawk lords hold a very special power.
Okay.
They can actually veto any measure that they see as potentially harmful.
That's a lot of power concentrated in one group.
It is.
Do you know if this was ever like a point of contention?
It definitely created a very unique dynamic.
Yeah.
And the historical record actually shows us that this veto power was invoked several times,
Interesting.
sometimes leading to stalemates.
I can imagine.
But it also forced the council to really truly consider the potential harm of any proposed measure.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a symbolic power, it had real impact on their decision-making process.
Wow. So it's not just about reaching consensus,
Uh-huh.
but also about making sure that decisions weren't made too hastily
Yeah,
or without considering, all the angles.
exactly.
But ultimately, who has the final say?
The Onondaga lords, also known as the Fire Keepers,
Okay.
they hold that responsibility.
Interesting.
They're like the final arbiters,
Uh-huh.
but even their decision isn't absolute.
Oh, really?
If it goes against the majority will of the people, there are mechanisms in place to challenge it.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So it ensures that the system wasn't, tyrannical.
Right.
That's incredible. This system is so much more nuanced than I initially imagined.
It really is.
It really speaks to, like the Iroquois' commitment to balance,
Yeah,
deliberation,
absolutely.
and really like the well-being of the entire Confederacy.
Yes.
But okay, what about like the individuals in this system,
Okay.
the lords themselves?
Right.
They must have been held to some pretty high standards
Absolutely.
to be in those positions of power.
The Great Law actually uses this very striking image.
Okay.
It says that the skin of a lord should be 7 spans thick.
Whoa.
Metaphorically speaking, of course.
Yeah.
But it highlights the qualities that were expected of these leaders.
So resilience in the face of criticism.
Exactly.
Like you said, thick skin.
Yeah,
Literally.
pretty much.
But it wasn't just that was it.
No, they needed to be able to withstand pressure and scrutiny,
Yeah.
but they also had to be compassionate,
Okay.
generous,
Okay.
and prioritize the welfare of the people above all else.
And there's this really interesting detail in the document.
Yes.
It says that lords couldn't eat with sharp utensils at council meetings.
It's fascinating.
Like, imagine that today.
I know.
It's a powerful symbol.
It is.
It really shows you how deeply ingrained
Yeah,
the concept of peace was and their culture.
absolutely.
Even during meals.
Right.
The potential for violence.
Yeah.
Even like symbolic violence
But even symbolic.
was to be avoided at all costs.
Exactly.
It speaks to their commitment to peaceful resolution,
Yeah.
even in like the smallest detail.
Absolutely.
And this commitment to peace is even more striking when you consider that the Iroquois were also renowned warriors.
That's right.
It's such an interesting thing to think about.
It's a point of fascination for many people who study the Iroquois.
Yeah.
Their society had this very complex relationship with war. You know,
Yeah.
they were certainly capable warriors,
Yeah.
But the Great Law emphasizes a very specific approach
Oh, really?
to warfare.
Okay, so it wasn't just about strength on the battlefield.
It
There was
was.
something more to it.
There was something more strategic.
Okay, so tell me about that.
War was considered a last resort,
Okay,
always preceded by attempts at diplomacy.
interesting.
They had a really sophisticated system for resolving conflict
Uh-huh.
before resorting to violence.
Interesting. So like those wampum belts that we're going to talk about later
Exactly.
played a key role in these efforts.
Yes.
Okay.
A key role in their diplomatic efforts.
I mean, it's amazing. It seems like every aspect of their society,
Yeah.
from the structure of government to like their everyday rituals,
Mm-hmm.
was informed by this dedication to peace,
Right.
while also acknowledging the reality of conflict.
Right.
I mean, that's what I find so interesting about the Iroquois.
It's a very nuanced picture.
Yeah.
Full of contradictions and complexities.
Yeah.
And it really challenges us to think beyond like simple categories.
Speaking of challenging assumptions,
Okay.
let's talk about the role of women in the Iroquois Confederacy.
Okay.
You know, we often think of historical societies as being patriarchal, but the Iroquois definitely defy that stereotype.
For sure.
And this is where we see like the clan system
Yeah.
and the concept of matrilineal descent coming into play.
Absolutely. The Royana women, the heirs to the lordship titles, held a significant amount of power.
Wow.
And this power was directly tied to their clan structure
Okay.
and this concept of matrilineal descent.
Break this down for me.
Okay.
How did the clans and this matrilineal system
Yeah.
actually work together to give women this influence?
So each nation within the Confederacy was divided into clans,
Okay.
each associated with a specific animal totem.
Okay.
But the key point here
Yeah.
is that clan membership was determined by the mother's lineage, not the father's.
Interesting. So you inherited your clan from your mother.
You did?
Wow. So
Yeah.
a father's clan had no bearing on
None whatsoever.
his children's clan affiliation?
Correct.
Was this like a unique system to the Iroquois?
It wasn't entirely unique,
Okay.
but it certainly had very profound implications for them. Yeah.
And the significance of this matrilineal system goes beyond just family ties.
Okay.
It also had a direct impact on the distribution of power
Okay.
and leadership within the Confederacy.
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff.
Right.
So how did this matrilineal clan system actually translate into power for women?
So remember how we discussed that women were responsible for choosing the lords?
Yeah.
It wasn't just any woman who had this power.
Uh-huh.
It had to be women who came from specific clans within their nation.
Okay.
This ensured a balance of representation.
Yep.
So it was a carefully designed system to prevent any one clan from dominating the leadership.
Oh, so the matrilineal system wasn't just about inheritance. It was woven into like the very fabric of their government.
Absolutely.
Wow. And did this system also apply to removing lords from power as well?
Yes, if a lord was deemed unfit for his position,
Yeah.
the women of his clan had the authority to remove him.
Wow. Talk about accountability.
It's incredible. I mean, this is really eye-opening.
Yeah.
It seems like the Iroquois were centuries ahead of their time
Uh-huh.
in recognizing and integrating the power of women
Yeah.
into their society.
For sure.
Makes you wonder, how did this system evolve?
Yeah.
And how did it impact the overall stability and effectiveness of the Confederacy?
That's a great question.
But I think we're going to have to save that for part 2.
Indeed, there's still so much more to uncover about this fascinating world of the Iroquois Confederacy. We've only just scratched the surface.
Absolutely. Welcome back. And, I'm still thinking about those revelations about the Iroquois women's influence.
Yeah.
Just imagine having that power to, choose and even depose leaders.
Right.
Talk about accountability.
For sure.
But okay, speaking of systems designed for, stability,
Yeah.
let's talk more about the Iroquois' approach to conflict resolution.
Okay.
And we talked about how they, preferred diplomacy over war.
Yeah.
But what can you tell us about those intricate wampum belts
Oh, yeah.
and how they were used to maintain peace?
So these wampum belts weren't just decorations. They were actually really complex and multi-layered.
Okay.
And they served as tangible records
Okay.
of treaties, agreements,
Okay.
even condolences.
Wow. Okay. So picture this, these intricately woven belts
Yeah.
with, their patterns and colors,
Uh-huh.
each carrying specific meanings.
Right?
It's almost like a physical form of like coded messages.
Exactly. Think of them as a combination of like a historical record,
Okay.
a legal document,
Uh-huh.
and a work of art,
Oh, wow.
all woven together.
That's amazing. Did other cultures use like similar systems?
While some other cultures used wampum for various purposes,
Yeah.
the Iroquois system of like using these wampum belts as these intricate records of diplomacy and agreements
Right.
was pretty unique to them.
Okay.
It really speaks to their strong oral tradition and, their understanding of the power of symbolism in binding agreements.
It makes you wonder if having these, like physical representations of their agreements
Yeah.
made them feel more concrete,
Right.
more binding.
Absolutely.
Because they're right there. You can see it, you can touch it.
Having those belts often displayed prominently during ceremonies and council meetings
Mm-hmm.
could have served as this constant reminder,
Right.
of the commitments that had been made
Yeah.
and, the importance of upholding those agreements.
It's fascinating.
It is.
Like, just think about how different cultures
Yeah.
approach these concepts, like record keeping and diplomacy and even art.
Yeah.
But okay, let's, shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about, like the impact of this clan system,
Right.
especially in everyday life.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, how clan membership
Yeah.
was determined through the mother's line.
Right.
So how did this matrilineal system shape,
Mm.
the dynamics within these clans?
So the matrilineal system had these really profound implications
Okay.
for their social structure, their identity, and even their governance.
Wow. Okay.
And each clan, remember, was associated with a specific animal totem,
Right.
like the wolf, bear, or turtle.
Uh-huh.
But clan membership wasn't just about family ties.
Okay.
It created a really strong sense of community,
Okay.
a network of support and obligation
Okay.
that transcended individual families.
So it was more than just who you were related to. It
Exactly.
was about belonging to like a larger group
Yeah,
with shared responsibilities and values.
exactly. Members of the same clan, regardless of their nation,
Okay.
were considered relatives,
Wow.
creating this web of kinship
Okay.
that spanned the entire Confederacy.
And did this have like practical implications?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like, for example, marriage within your own clan
Yeah.
was strictly forbidden.
Okay, that makes sense.
Uh.
Like, from a genetic standpoint.
Right.
But was there a deeper reason for that?
There was.
Like a cultural or social reason?
So this practice, helped prevent inbreeding, of course.
Yeah.
But it also served like a crucial social function.
Okay.
By requiring marriage outside of one's clan,
Uh-huh.
the Iroquois encouraged these alliances between different clans,
Oh, I see.
which further strengthened the bonds within the Confederacy.
So it was a way of like weaving together
Yeah.
the different threads of their society.
Absolutely.
That's so cool. So like the clan system wasn't just about family
Right.
or even like governance.
Uh-huh.
It was also a way of maintaining social harmony
Yeah.
and preventing any one group
Mm-hmm.
from, becoming too insular or powerful.
It was a carefully designed system that promoted balance and interconnectedness within the Confederacy.
And this emphasis on interconnectedness,
Yeah.
on belonging to something larger than oneself,
Uh-huh.
was also reflected in their spiritual beliefs, right?
Absolutely.
We've been kind of dancing around the topic of spirituality
Yeah.
throughout this whole deep dive.
Right.
It's clearly not just a footnote in the Great Law.
No.
It seems to be like woven into the very fabric of their society.
Right.
So tell me more about how the Iroquois viewed their relationship with the spiritual realm.
So their spirituality wasn't something separate from their daily lives.
Okay.
It was infused into everything they did,
Oh.
from their political structures to their social interactions to their relationship with the natural world.
Right. And we've talked a lot about these Thanksgiving festivals,
Yes.
which seem to be a prime example of this integration of spirituality in everyday life.
Absolutely.
So what can you tell us about, like, the significance of these festivals?
They were much more than just feasts.
Okay.
They were really elaborate ceremonies,
Okay.
a way to give thanks to the Creator for the
Okay.
blessings of the earth,
Okay.
a time for reflection and reaffirmation of their commitment to the great law
Wow.
and to each other.
Like a collective moment to pause,
Yeah.
reflect,
Right.
and, express gratitude for all that sustains them.
Exactly.
Were there any like specific rituals or ceremonies associated with these festivals
Yeah.
that you find particularly interesting?
One fascinating aspect was the inclusion of these very specific dances and songs,
Okay.
each with its own symbolism and purpose.
Okay.
Some dances were meant to honor the spirits of the natural world,
Uh-huh.
others to express gratitude for a bountiful harvest,
Right.
and still others to strengthen the bonds within the community.
It sounds like a truly immersive experience.
It was.
A way of connecting with something larger than themselves
Right.
through movement,
Yeah.
music,
Right.
and ritual.
Exactly.
And speaking of connection,
Yeah,
the great law doesn't shy away from addressing religious freedom, does it?
that's right.
Like, it explicitly states
It does.
that everyone is allowed to follow their own beliefs
Yeah.
as long as it doesn't harm others.
Right.
It's a surprisingly modern concept.
It's for a centuries-old document.
Yeah, it really speaks to like a level of tolerance and understanding
Yeah.
that is still aspirational for many societies today.
It's like they understood that true peace requires respect
Right.
for different beliefs and ways of life.
Exactly. And this tolerance wasn't just a passive acceptance.
Okay.
It was an active embrace of the idea
Yeah.
that diversity strengthens the community as a whole.
Wow. I'm constantly amazed
Yeah.
by how much foresight and wisdom the Iroquois seem to have.
They
They
did.
weren't just creating a system of government.
Right.
They were building like a whole society,
Yeah.
one that valued balance,
Yeah.
respect,
All right.
and the well-being of all its members.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's truly remarkable.
It is.
And while their society faced, its share of challenges and conflicts,
Mm.
the principles enshrined in the Great Law
Yeah.
offer this powerful example
Yeah.
of how to create a more just and harmonious world.
So we've got a complex system of governance.
A profound respect for women,
Uh-huh.
a strong clan system that fosters interconnectedness,
You're right.
and a deep spirituality that permeates every aspect of their lives.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a pretty impressive picture, wouldn't you say?
It's a testament to the ingenuity and wisdom of the Iroquois people.
For sure.
And it raises the question,
Okay.
what impact did this remarkable society have on the world beyond their own territory?
That's the perfect segue into our final segment,
Yeah.
where we'll explore the legacy of the Iroquois Confederacy,
Okay.
its impact on modern society,
Right.
and the enduring relevance of its wisdom.
I can't wait.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into the Iroquois Confederacy.
Yeah.
We've explored, their intricate government,
Yeah.
their unique social structure,
Right.
and their really profound spirituality.
Absolutely.
But now I kind of want to shift our focus outwards.
Okay.
You know what happened when this remarkable society encountered the wider world? Like, how do they navigate the arrival of, European colonists
Right.
and the turbulent landscape of, colonial North America?
So for centuries, the Iroquois Confederacy was like a major force in North America.
Oh.
They weren't just, passive bystanders. They were really skilled diplomats,
Okay.
forging alliances and negotiating treaties
Mm-hmm.
with both indigenous nations and European powers.
So they were playing this complex game
Yeah,
of strategy and diplomacy,
absolutely.
just trying to maintain their own power and autonomy
Right.
in the face of all these, new arrivals.
Exactly. And they were actually quite successful at it
Oh, wow.
for a considerable period.
Interesting.
Their understanding of diplomacy
Uh-huh.
and their ability to form these strategic alliances
Yeah.
allowed them to navigate, this shifting political landscape
Right.
and maintain a degree of independence.
It really makes you realize that history
Yeah.
is rarely this simple narrative
Mm.
of one group just dominating another.
No?
It's often this much more intricate web
Is.
of interactions,
Yeah.
negotiations, and shifting power dynamics.
Absolutely. The Iroquois were masters at playing this game.
They were.
They understood that survival in this new world required
Yeah.
a keen understanding of everyone's motivations
Oh,
and
no.
vulnerabilities.
Both indigenous and European.
Yeah.
Wow. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
There's a theory that the Iroquois Confederacy actually had a surprising influence
Yeah.
on the very foundation of the United States.
That's right.
I mean, really.
Some scholars believe that the Iroquois model of representative government,
Yeah.
with its emphasis on, consensus building and balance of power,
Mm-hmm.
actually served as an inspiration for Benjamin Franklin
Wow.
and others who were drafting the Articles of Confederation, which
Okay.
was the precursor to the U.S. Constitution.
So the idea of a democracy
Yeah.
where different groups have a voice.
Right. And power is shared.
Might have its roots, at least in part, in the Great Law of Peace.
It's a possibility.
That's a powerful thought.
It is.
It really challenges us to rethink, like the traditional narrative of American history, to acknowledge the influence of indigenous thought on the development of, Western political systems.
Exactly. And it raises these really interesting questions about, like, who gets credit for ideas, whose voices are heard, and, whose stories are told throughout history.
It's a reminder that we need to, constantly re-examine the stories we tell ourselves about the past to make sure that we're not overlooking the contributions of, those who have been marginalized or silenced.
Absolutely.
And the Iroquois Confederacy provides a really powerful example of a society that deserves recognition for its unique and influential system of government.
Right, but their legacy extends far beyond just the realm of politics.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Their influence can be seen in various social and cultural movements today.
Interesting.
Like, for example, their deep respect for the earth and their understanding of interconnectedness really resonates with modern environmental movements.
That makes sense.
Their emphasis on, sustainable practices, on living in harmony with nature, is more relevant now than ever.
Yeah, we can't forget the prominent role of women in Iroquois society.
We can't.
I mean, their influence has inspired generations of feminists.
Yeah.
And continues to be a source of empowerment for women around the world.
It's a powerful reminder that societies can be structured in ways that value and respect the contributions of all genders.
Absolutely.
And that, equality isn't just a modern concept.
Right.
It's something that has been practiced by cultures around the world for centuries.
So as we wrap up, this deep dive,
Yep.
what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
Okay.
What can we learn from the Iroquois Confederacy today?
I think the Iroquois Confederacy offers this really powerful message of hope and resilience. It's a testament to the ingenuity and adaptability of the human spirit.
Yeah.
A reminder that even in the face of immense challenges, we can create systems that prioritize peace, balance, and the well-being of all people.
And it challenges us to think beyond the familiar right.
Yeah.
To consider alternative ways of organizing ourselves, of relating to each other.
Yeah.
And of interacting with, the natural world.
Absolutely.
It's a call to re-examine our assumptions.
Yeah.
And to seek wisdom from unexpected sources.
Exactly. The Iroquois Confederacy may be a society of the past.
Yeah.
But its legacy lives on.
It does.
Its wisdom and its lessons are as relevant today as they were centuries ago.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Iroquois Confederacy.
It's been a pleasure.
We've only scratched the surface.
We have.
But hopefully, we've sparked your curiosity.
Yeah.
And inspired you to learn more about this remarkable and influential culture.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
See